honor. Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I want to give John a big thank you. I'm new at this, so as the freshman in the group, when I decided to run for office, I did it for the same reasons that Representative Hoyle was speaking about. I come from a community where our middle class is gone. When I started in this process many years ago, we had a high school of 2,000 kids. It's now a high school of 700 kids. We had 10 elementary schools. We now have 2. 84% of our kids in our elementary schools qualify for free and reduced lunch. This is not a healthy community. The Coos Bay area, District 9 that I represent, has a history of being a very robust middle-class community, and we need to return to that state. And we do that by you all coming in and building things. And we're very excited about the prospects that we have. Governor Kulongoski appointed me to the Port Commission in 2003. I was sworn in January of '04. And I think the things that John brought me in here today to talk about are projects that I can update you on that are going on down on the South Coast. I've been involved in these for a very long time. I've been a cheerleader and a champion of these projects and putting people back to work for many years. And again, to Representative Hoyle's comment, this is all about schools and being healthy and families being able to raise kids and do it in a way that's meaningful and put this economy back on track. So when the governor called and asked me to take a position on the Port Commission, I said, why are you calling me? I know nothing about ports. Well, what it had to do with a vision for our community that makes that economy robust and brings back that middle class so our kids can get a great education and can stay on the coast and be with their parents and their grandparents and put people back to work. Chuck Deister is going to speak to the Jordan Cove project this afternoon. He can get into more detail than I can, but I'm going to give you a couple of highlights that are really key for us down on the South Coast in moving this project forward. Oh, and by the way, this is a vintage button that was printed in about 2005. That's how long we've been working on this project down on the South Coast. So we've been at this for a very long time. I was really excited on April 11th when the announcement came out that Jordan Cove had come to an agreement with the Trades Council that this project will be built with union labor. I think that's a very important watershed day in the progress of this project. Yesterday, Black & Veatch and Kiewit announced that they have completed the design work to build the project. So 2 key things have happened this spring and this summer that continue to inch this project forward. This project has morphed a great deal since its inception 10 years ago. About $130 million has been spent to date working on permitting. Started out as an import terminal, about a $3 billion project. Now the market has changed. It's turned to an export terminal, which includes a power plant. Between the pipeline, the power plant, the train equipment, which chills the gas, the tanks, and the wharf, this is now a $7.7 billion project. It's the largest private investment ever in the state of Oregon, and we're just very excited about the prospect of it moving forward. 2 other projects in Coos Bay that I think might interest you. One, of course, is the Coos Bay rail line, which is an investment in infrastructure that's going to be very significant over time. As a port commissioner, when you take on those positions, I didn't ever wake up in the morning having any idea that we would end up owning a rail line. It just wasn't in our purview. Trains were coming in and out of Coos Bay. Ships were moving in, not at the rate we liked. We used to have 300 ships a year. We're down to about 40. But we're trying to turn that around. One day we woke up in 2007, the line was embargoed, and the line, it was shut down. It was built in 1913, and it was a robust piece of the infrastructure that we need to make our port successful and our community and our region successful. So we had to turn our attention at that time to purchasing the rail line with the support of our congressional delegation, our state delegation, our local shippers, our industrial base, our local municipalities. We did that. We purchased it for $16 million with an action from the Surface Transportation Board at the federal level. A lot of sleepless nights over that, but we actually now own a rail line at the Port of Coos Bay. Then we had a 100-year-old piece of infrastructure that we need to rehabilitate. So you all probably have heard over the last couple of years, we have been able to invest about $30 million into the Coos Bay rail line. It's been open and operating for over a year. We're moving about 500 cars a month, which is ahead of schedule for us, but there's a great deal more work to do. And in this legislative session, I was very, very pleased and proud that at the end of the session, in the capital construction bill, $10 million was set aside for bridge rehabilitation for the Coos Bay rail line. So you're going to see those projects continue to move forward. We have a backlog of work to do, as we do with all of our infrastructure across the state. It's critical that we continue to invest in it, that we bring it up to speed so that we can continue to develop the port, bring more ships in and out of our bay, and put people back to work in our community. Those are very public projects. Everybody knows about the rail line. The information's in the news. Jordan Cove's in the news. But there's another project down there that I want to touch on because I'm not sure it's something that you've heard about. About 4 years ago, a company came to the Port of Coos Bay. It's called Principal Power, and started working with the port on a deep water offshore wind project. Now, this project's out there a ways. There's not certainty to it at this point. But just like Jordan Cove, it started as an idea 10 years ago and moved forward. This one started about 4 years ago and is gaining some momentum. Deep water offshore wind is something globally that is relatively new. Shallow water offshore wind, they're doing a lot of. Deep water offshore wind is something that has huge potential. They chose the Port of Coos Bay because we have a deep water channel that's unencumbered, because these need to be towed out as a device that floats in deep water, and they have to have an unencumbered channel because they're very, very tall, somewhere between, they're over 300 feet tall, so you can't have bridges or power lines. We have land available, and we could become the deployment center for the West Coast for deep water offshore wind. About a year ago, Principal Power received a $4 million planning grant through the Department of Energy, the Federal Department of Energy. They're moving ahead with this project at this point in the planning phase. They're in line for a $47 million grant to do their test project. We want that work here in Oregon, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to attain that as they move forward. These are 1,250-ton devices that are large. The fabrication of these is amazing. If they have a test buoy that they launched off the coast of Portugal a year ago, October. I was privileged to go over and work with them and see what the fabrication of this device looks like, and it's an amazing thing to behold. But this is something that's forward-looking that we want to continue to focus on to make sure that when those jobs come, that they come to Oregon, because these are really great jobs. Principal Power is public now. They were kind of below the radar for a while, but you can look online and see what they're trying to do. And we're very hopeful that when those grants are awarded at the federal level for deep water offshore wind exploration, that Principal Power will be in that mix, that the West Coast will become a piece of this. East Coast tends to draw these dollars. We're fighting hard and competing for those dollars to bring this project to the West Coast, and we're very excited about that potential. One thing that's really key to remember about this project, they have to have Jordan Cove. Jordan Cove doesn't need this project, but they are very interested and are having conversations with Principal Power about purchasing the power. This is a new industry. It's going to cost some money. The power is not going to be market value for a while because this is new technology. And Jordan Cove is in conversations working with them and interested in assisting them in purchasing the power for them to get this project off the ground. But Jordan Cove can move forward certainly without them, but they cannot move forward without the Jordan Cove project. So it's just one more reason why we need to continue to move forward and nudge this Jordan Cove project with our congressional delegation and our state folks to make sure that it's on the radar. People understand that we want this. We understand it. It's good for our community, and that we can move this thing over the line, hopefully very, very soon. A couple of key permits are still out there, and Mr. Deister can speak to those this afternoon, but we're very, very hopeful. I want to also thank John. As a new legislator, a new candidate in this last round, Rep. Hoyle was just so great to sit me down and have a conversation with me, start to introduce me to people in your industry, because I'm relatively new at this. Bob Westerman's been fabulous. I've known Bob down in Coos Bay for a long time. But getting to know the rest of you has been just a delight and been an honor and a pleasure, and I thank Rep. Hoyle for making those introductions for me. And John, I have to tell you, being in the building and having questions that come up as a new legislator, you have been invaluable in helping educate me about issues that impact your organizations here. So really a hearty thanks to you for welcoming me and again, walking into my office when I needed to know something and talking to me about things that were happening. So thank you so much for being so kind to me as a freshman legislator. I'm happy to answer questions if you would like about Jordan Cove, about the Coos Bay rail line, about the Principal Power Project. We call it Project Effectuate, which is an odd name, but we're hopeful that that project has a chance to move forward with a federal grant to start deploy some test buoys. If there's anything else I can add, I'd be more than happy to. But thank you for the honor of being here today.
Any questions for?
Good.
Sure. Okay.
One other thing I didn't mention on the construction side, in the capital projects budget at the end of this session, for my district, we also received $8 million for a project at the community college. I get focused on port things as a port commissioner, but I don't want to discount the fact that we have another construction project in Coos Bay that will be a health and sciences education center at our community college, which is also something we were very delighted to be able to get over the hump at the end of the session. So, yes, sir.
Hi, my name's A.J. Blair. I'm with the Iron Workers, Local 516 in Portland, Oregon. I used to work for Oregon Iron Works, and we was instrumental in bringing forth a wave buoy generator that was supposed to be put in the Winchester Bay area. Did that get implemented?
Senator Roblin is the expert on wave energy for our district. There have been some issues with wave energy. OPT, which is the company that is at the project you're speaking about, they've had some issues. I think that project moved forward for a period of time. I know they were working on the design with Oregon State University. There were actually a couple of different projects that were moving forward. There was a buoy that went in that had some issues that they pulled out, and I'm not sure where they are now. It's my understanding, and I'm not the expert on the wave energy, wind energy is what I've been focusing on, that OPT has had some financial issues. Okay. So I'm not sure if that project still has as much momentum as it did have at one time. So, but I can certainly find out if you would like me to get more information for you.
Yes, originally that project was supposed to entail 10 different buoys.
Yes.
And we built the first one, but I had never heard about the other 9 coming online behind that one.
They have not come online.
Right.
That I can assure you of.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, you're very welcome, and thank you for your good work. And actually, we are hopeful on the fabrication of the wind devices, that type of partnership can occur. That we want to make sure.
You're talking about going to a wind turbine design now offshore as opposed to the buoy generator design.
These are totally unrelated projects. Right. Yeah. And I'll tell you, the issues are very different between wind and wave. The wave energy devices are untried. They're trying to get that technology up to speed, and a lot of worldwide, there's a lot of effort going into the engineering for that. They're closer in, so it's a little different set of issues. The deep water offshore wind, they're 10 to 15 miles offshore, so the viewshed issues are not there. You're not in prime fishing ground, so they're a little bit different set of issues. And everybody, we know how to build a turbine. We know how to put it on a tower and deploy it. So it's a little bit different when you look at how far the technology is advanced. Bremerhaven, Germany is the hotbed of deep water offshore wind and shallow water offshore wind for Europe. And I've traveled to Bremerhaven to see what this port looks like. They do blade testing there. They do all the deployment for the nacelles, the towers, the foundations. They've actually moved a container terminal to make room for the deployment of wind devices. and it's a burgeoning port. And I think there's a chance for a port on the West Coast to become the Bremerhaven of the West Coast, and we certainly would like to see that happen and bring those jobs that come with the fabrication, the operations and maintenance, the building and the deployment of these devices. So you never know where when those wonderful things are going to happen. Thank you so much for having me this morning.